At DePaco Credit Union, we value your health and happiness as much as your financial well-being. We encourage the volunteer spirit by providing DePaco employees with the tools and resources to help grow our communities and support the causes that matter to us. We believe that giving back not only strengthens the places we call home, but also enhances our overall well-being. Well-being is the key to a life worth loving. So when you think about yours, remember that DePaco can help you be well.
All things Hawkeyes, your all-access pass. From courtside to the postgame. Iowa's News Now Sports presents Eye on the Hawks. Sponsored by DePaco Community Credit Union and Pin Seekers.
What's the weirdest thing about Iowa, in your opinion?
The weirdest?
Yeah.
Ooh. I don't know. I don't think it's anything that weird. Maybe me. I'm the weirdest man in Iowa, maybe.
And welcome to an Eye on the Hawks podcast. It's going to maybe look a little weird if you're watching or listening online because it's the first basketball podcast in the DePaco studio without a Mitch Fick involved. So welcome into Eye on the Hawks. First basketball edition. We're going here after Media Days this week. In the studio today, of course, Owen Sebring and Mike Howell. And our first guest to be welcomed into the DePaco studio is Eliot Clough. Eliot, introduce yourself, who you're with, kind of how much you cover this team.
Yeah, so Eliot Clough, been covering Iowa for about 3 years now between the other place and now with 24/7 Sports, covering Iowa men's basketball as well as football and doing some recruiting coverage as well.
The other place that shall not be named.
Shall not be named. Nope.
Well, welcome into the DePaco studio. I know you had your compliments about this place when you walked in, and we've been in here for a couple months, so now excited to kind of transition into basketball mode as we get into the winter months here coming up. But first, we're going to tee it up with Pin Seekers, and we're going to talk about this week and what we saw out of Media Days. So myself and Mike and Elliot were all with the men's basketball team this week as we're chatting with Coach McCollum, most of the players on the team, talking for Media Day. So let's just get some generic takeaways, anything that really stood out, maybe the big storyline coming out of Media Day. So, Elliot, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think something that has been kind of overlooked from the weekend in looking back at it is how little, personally, I didn't talk to Bennett Sturtz at all. Okay. He's kind of a preseason All-American. Yeah. And nobody other than Scott Docterman at the very end asked about Bennett Sturtz going into the in the press conference at all. That was one of my takeaways. Was this guy's and I think it was a couple things. It was one that this Drake team is all coming together, and he's one of those from last season, one of those guys that was so a part of it and so stable and so good that it's not really a question mark. Whereas there are a lot of other question marks when you look at like Alvaro and the freshmen and stuff like that. And we're not talking about an honorable mention to All-American. The last time Iowa had an All-American, Keegan Murray, Chris Murray, they were the star of the show. That's who everybody wanted to talk to, and everybody wanted to talk to Bennett yesterday too. But and I've gotten to know Bennett a little bit. This is just the first thing that came to mind. Maybe not the headliner from the weekend.
No, it's an interesting observation.
Nobody's talking about Bennett Sturtz, and he's going to be the best player on this team. And the way I wrote about it yesterday for 24/7 Sports was he's the guy, and everybody knows it.
Yeah. And that was my next question was like, are we not talking about it because it's just the assumption, okay, and obviously Bennett Sturtz is going to be the straw that stirs the drink.
Yeah, he is the straw that stirs the drink. He's the engine that makes this team go. As far as maybe question marks or other storylines, I thought it was really interesting how Coach McCollum talked about Alvaro Fulgaris as well. First question asked by my cohort David Eichel was, what's the expectations? What's the process been like through the summer? And a lot of it was talking about effort and being able to be 100% all the time, go, but also, and he's competitive, but it's his greatest strength and his greatest weakness. It was really an interesting dichotomy talking about Alvaro.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to talk to Alvaro, Mike? Or I know I chatted with him for a little bit.
I did not. I came up when you were interviewing, when you and Shannon were over there,
sure.
and just listening because I wanted to hear what he had to say. Didn't think I had to put my camera in his face because you already had your camera in his face. But I read some things too. Like he's kind of, that's why the soundbite off the top, people have been saying he's kind of like a silly guy, kind of one of the funniest guys on the team. So when he said like maybe I'm the weirdest thing about Iowa, I just thought that was funny to include. But I think he's going to be like a huge factor, like you said, like. When McCollum was asked, like, what are we going to see from him? Because he's an expected starter. he was playing in Europe, and I think I didn't personally watch it, but it wasn't as great as some people might have thought.
Yeah, looking at a guy like Alvaro, and we didn't get to see it in the 5 minutes that we saw yesterday, I should take that back. He triggered the offense a little bit in those 5 minutes. Did he do much with the ball in his hands other than that? I don't think that he scored. Again, it's 5 minutes,
and they're probably hiding whatever they actually, whatever they want to keep from the media. They know that the cameras are on.
But like you mentioned on the world stage, I think he got more comfortable as the thing went along. But early on, not very good. It is I'm pretty sure it's a different ball that they use.
Oh, really?
Because I know
different rules too, right?
Yeah, I know for like pros and like the Olympics they use a different ball. I'm assuming, and maybe I'm wrong there, but that I'm just saying that might have been a factor in how he played. But I will be really, and especially given that didn't go incredibly well, and now he's joining the team and still trying to figure that out. I don't know. It might be. Given that, but also given the fact there are so many other new pieces around him, so many other new guys around him, it might be a little clunky to start the year. I mean, that's why you play an entirely new Robert Morris team. That's why you play Buck
Is that why you think the schedule was kind of, when you look at it, there's a lack of, kind of challenges on it? I mean, Xavier might be a challenge. Iowa State's obviously a challenge, and Ole Miss too.
Yeah, Xavier, Iowa State. There's another one in their non-con. They might play Grand Canyon, who's traditionally pretty solid mid-major program. I think that's
Utah.
Part of or Utah, exactly.
And then Ole Miss beforehand.
Yep, Ole Miss before that, and then obviously the Big Ten is going to be a gauntlet.
Yeah.
So,
I liked Alvaro a lot. Like I kind of mentioned to Mike that he's kind of your typical like. I feel like I've done a lot of stories in my career about like foreign players coming to America just because that's always who I'm kind of drawn to. I've spent a lot of time overseas, and so I kind of like chatting with people who are from Indonesia or Spain or Tunisia or whatever. And so he's got the typical personality you might expect from a foreigner. They usually are a little bit looser. Maybe it's something with being a world traveler does loosen a person up a little bit. And so I think that like he just does seem a little bit more relatable, easy to talk to. He hasn't. I think a lot of kids, especially that have grown up in America, have seen all of the NBA players and college players do the sound bites and the interviews, but he hasn't really seen that. He doesn't know what you're supposed to maybe say for a typical sound bite, so he's just going to tell you whatever you ask him, without betraying anything that's too confidential. But that's what makes him a lot more fun to chat with. So he seems like a fun guy, and he's going to be an easy fan favorite.
I was just gonna say, like, he has to be the secondary playmaker for this team. Like, we talked about Bennett starts to lead off as a guy who stirs the drink, the engine that makes this team go. But I wouldn't say he was. I mean, he wasn't a one-man show at Drake, right? Like, very, very team-centered culture that McCollum likes to have. But you can't succeed at the Big Ten level and have one dude.
Yeah.
Alvaro has to be that second dude.
Sure.
And, like, having Brendan Hassan, which we confirmed, by the way, Brendan Hassan. Not Hausen. Yeah. It's Hassan.
Okay.
As a shooter from Kansas State, I mean, like, talking with people who know hoops, I had somebody say he could shoot 45% from three this year, which would be sensational, but that doesn't make him a secondary creator. He might be a secondary scorer. But you have to have somebody who can create.
And Howson was the guy that I think it was Bennett Sturts I was talking to, just maybe about some of the other guys on the team who have been difficult for him to go up against. And he did bring up Brendan Hawson as the guy who's like, he's tough to guard when he's making his shots. And he was like, he's making his shots most of the time. So he could be a guy that puts up, 12 points a night.
I was talking to Trey Thompson, too, the freshman who reclassified, and he said that, you're guarding Bennett, and then he dishes it out to Hassan, and then he said Hassan makes it like 95%. That's an exaggeration, but that's kind of the shooter that you're hoping for this year.
Yeah.
In that 5-minute split that we get 5 minutes that we got to watch of basketball, there was a moment where Trevin Urick had it on the post, and Cam Maniow was making it difficult on him to score, and Trevin was pivoting, looking around, trying to find something, and as the time's expiring, he throws it to Hassan, and Hassan just drills a three. And that's the type of thing that's just a killer if you're an opposing team playing defense for the full 30 seconds, and then somebody buries a three. It's just like, come on. I mean, we saw, like, Caitlin Clark with the women do that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's just a killer when you're playing defense. And that's what adds to that, like, efficiency MO that McCollum has. It's like he doesn't necessarily worry about pace. He doesn't worry about tempo. It's efficiency. How often and how efficiently can you score the basketball?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about Trevin and the freshman in just a little bit here. But before that, Mike, any big takeaway from you for Media Day?
Not big takeaway on the long picture, but I did think, it's important to mention that Ben McCollum still hasn't decided on a punishment for Tavion Banks being arrested over the weekend. And kind of piggybacking off one of your last points, or talking about Bennett Sturtz driving the offense. Drake last year was like the dead last in the country in tempo. They played it really slow. Yeah, 364, however many teams there are. And I heard Bennett on a different podcast. I don't know if you guys listen to Ryan Hammer, his stuff on content.
Saw the clips, yeah.
Yeah. Bennett was saying that, well, first of all, Ben McCollum said that, we're going to go as fast as, Bennett does. We're going to let him drive it. But he also said if we're playing like a fast team, we're probably going to want to slow it down. But he insinuated that they might play a little faster this year. Bennett said on the podcast that they have been practicing at a faster pace. So, any Hawkeye fans worried about that, I think they're not going to be dead last.
People were saying Lick Lighter 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. That's,
Come on, not the same in the slightest.
Nightmare fuel.
And you're right. McCollum adjusts to the personnel that's on the roster. Mm-hmm. They just didn't have enough shooting last year, which was a large part of it. But, we were talking about how Hawson, talking about Fulgaris, talking about Trey Thompson, they have shooting this year. They have more shooting than they did last year. And one thing of note, when you're talking about, we're talking about personnel, we're talking about protecting the paint, and that was a question that I asked yesterday too, is how do you protect the rim with this roster? They might have to slow it down because of that. Because the Big Ten, you're going to be running into guys who are 6'11", 7 foot. And the only guy that they have that's above 6'9" is Trevin Urach, and he's 6'11", and he's a freshman. Mm-hmm. So, and he was playing at West Des Moines Valley last year. That's a little different than the Big Ten. So,
and he was committed to UNI until the last minute. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So that's a big question right there.
One thing I'd add about Bennett, just a couple of quick notes, is we did a one-on-one interview with Ben McCollum a couple months ago, and I asked him in that who's the star, who's going to be the guy? And he's like, you mean besides Bennett Sturtz, right? And, just immediately, obviously it's going to be Bennett Sturtz. Yeah. And this year, I got asked to be an Associated Press voter for college men's basketball this year, so I was trying to do a lot of preseason research on, the preseason top 25 and voting on the preseason All-American team. And so I'm just trying to read up on a lot of different articles about who other people are liking for that. But Bennett Sturtz's name was one that kept coming up in a lot of these articles. That not maybe one of those top 5 guys that's going to be a preseason All-American, but sounds like a guy who could get some votes for that, because there are a lot of people that are expecting a lot out of him as maybe a dark horse candidate for an All-American, maybe in that top 10 range at this point in the year.
Yeah, that All-American. We're also talking about NBA draft right down the road. I talked to him a little bit. He got engaged this summer.
Did he?
As well as I. So we talked about that a little bit.
Congrats.
Thank you. That's a big 24/7 sports money. But he and I talked about that a little bit once all the cameras were off and we were done. And they're doing a destination wedding in Arkansas.
Just where everybody dreams of.
I know. And he was like, yeah, I know. But anyway.
Did they say where? Little Rock or Fayetteville?
He said some small
town?
Area.
Oh, okay.
There are some pretty spots in Arkansas. No disrespect, but
right.
Come on, Art.
Right.
You got that NIL swarm money coming in, Bennett.
Right. But anyway, he had said that the plan is July 31st for their wedding date. And he said you got to plan around NBA stuff, and that's just a reality for him now. And I thought there's a lot of things in my interactions with Bennett that make me think, oh, this is an Iowa Hawkeye. This is a guy that fans are going to love, and one of them being that he opted not to go through the NBA draft process this last year and just chose to focus on being a Hawkeye. And he's still just so matter of fact. This is the way it is, and he said that if Coach Mack was still at Northwest, he'd still be at Northwest. And I'm just like, this is Iowa right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Only too bad that they're only going to get him for 1 year.
Right.
Yeah, I know. When I was talking to Trey Thompson, I was just asking about him, leaving high school early and coming to Iowa, and he even said that too. Man, it's like you're guarding an NBA player in practice, and talking about Bennett Sturtz again. Everybody's just assuming already that this guy's for sure going to be an NBA draft pick come next year. But talking about Trey Thompson and some of those freshmen, I think it was Eliot Clough who asked Ben McCollum yesterday about this freshman class coming in and what this group has to offer to the team potentially this year.
They're pretty good. That class is pretty good. We're pretty excited about them. I think we've got some steals in that class, if you will. Trevin, obviously 6'11", can do so many different things. Tate, 6'7", can shoot, can finish. Whether or not they play, the hopes are that eventually they can, this season. if not all of them, a couple of them. I think when you bring freshmen into the fold, you have to be a little bit careful, because if you just throw them out there, you can throw them out there in scrimmages and they're going to make 10,000 mistakes, and then you can just kind of let them play through the mistake. But in a game, they're not going to really be allowed to play through that mistake, if that makes sense. And if you pull them quickly, you're going to shatter their confidence, because you got to allow freshmen to play through mistakes, in my mind. And so once they get to a point where we feel like, okay, these guys are ready, and if they make one mistake, we're not going to yank them, then that's probably the time that they'll stay in the game consistently. But all three of them have been fantastic, and even better than we expected.
So, Eliot, looking ahead at this freshman class we have this year, just running down, we have Trey Thompson, who comes from Greenville, Tennessee, who reclassified. He was just a junior in high school last year, reclassified to graduate early so he could come to Iowa. We have Trevin Urach. Is it?
I thought it was Urich this entire time, but I've heard other people saying Urach.
Yeah,
I really don't know.
It's in the media guy right now, but I think it might be Urach. So we've got Trevin Urach there, West Des Moines Valley grad, comes to Iowa. We've got Tate Sage, who's from Oklahoma. Seems like a good kid. I like talking to him. And then Peyton McCollum, Ben McCollum's son, who was a Waukee Northwest grad, I believe.
You got it, yep.
So do you realistically see any of these freshmen seeing significant minutes this year? I'm sure we'd see all of them at one point or other when they're playing Robert Morris or something, but like anybody that's going to actually contribute to the team.
Talking to a few folks from behind the scenes, the leader in that department, probably Trey Thompson, just because you're talking about,
Wow.
I mean,
17-year-old?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Yeah,
he was
man.
a top 100 recruit.
Yeah, he was a big recruit, right?
In the 2026 class. I think he's still 150 for us at 24/7 Sports in the 25 class. But a guy that is just that prototypical 6'7" through 6'9" forward that has done so well with Ben McCollum, going back to his Northwest days as a shooter. I think we saw a little bit of his IQ in that 5 minutes yesterday, his ability to backdoor cuts and stuff like that. We saw that dunk that you said got the media hyped.
Yep.
Threw it down on Tavion Banks, but he's just got the most skill. He's most IQ, and in terms of I don't know, being able to play as soon as possible, I think he's your guy. Otherwise, I wouldn't surprise me if we see Trevin Urach spot minutes because of the fact
His
that
size.
he's
A
big boy, and he's really skilled. That's a conversation I've had behind the scenes too. He can shoot. He's a really good passer for his size.
That was maybe a question of mine coming into the year, was Trevin Urach, just because he was a guy who was, a UNI commit. I'm a UNI grad. You're a UNI grad too, right? Yeah. So it's like, no disrespect to UNI, obviously. I was hoping to see him on UNI's roster, but like,
Would he have? Are you guys plugged into UNI basketball? Would he have just thrown in and been a starter from day one?
I don't know about starter, but he would have played.
yeah, he would have been pretty significant, I think, as a true freshman.
They got Will Hornseth coming back,
Oh, okay.
who's pretty good as a freshman.
So it's like, is this actually a guy who can contribute to the Big Ten? Is this more of a mid-major level caliber guy, but you think that he could actually contribute in the Big Ten?
A lot of the conversation around Trevin with his camp was that they thought he was high major, and he had just committed to UNI and was okay. Like, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Drake came in a little bit early, but once they made that change to Iowa, Trevin, they couldn't be in contact because he had signed his letter of intent or whatever it is now with the NCAA. And he said, he talked to the staff at UNI, and they're like, we want you to be here if you want to be here, kind of thing, does that surprise you with Coach Jake?
Yeah, been there before.
Yeah, right.
Doug McDermott territory.
But with Trevin, he took that risk, and they let him out of his letter of intent. He reached out to Iowa, and they were like, yeah, we'd love to have you.
Wow.
And the thing, when we talk about the skill set for him, is so much of what we talk about with a guy like Anthony Davis, where he started high school at like 5'11" and then ended up graduating like 6'10", and I think he's a 7-footer now. But Trevin went from, I think, like 6'1" or 6'2" as a freshman to 6'6" or 6'7" as a sophomore. And now he's 6'11", so who knows if he's done growing. But he's got a little bit of that guard skill set to go with his size. So I really, and to boot, lastly, I'll say that I don't think Peyton McCollum's going to play much this year. He's a developmental piece that is a coach's kid that could be something down the road as far as like 10 to 12 minutes a night. But Tate Sage, I think he has a chance as the season goes on. what we saw this summer was really impressive. I don't know. Did you go to those summer workouts?
I was able to go one of them. Yeah.
He showed a lot more athleticism than I expected.
Okay.
Pretty good shooter. He tells me, like, you know, if I had to pigeonhole myself into a position, he'd say he's a guard, which is kind of interesting. I mean, Ben McCollum likes to play positionless basketball, but that would be my last piece. If there's anybody that's going to play and play a lot, Trey Thompson.
Okay.
Then it's Urok, then Sage, and then McCollum.
Ben McCollum. Okay. Well, I suppose it's about the longest teeing it off Pinseeker segment. Pinseeker's getting their money's worth on today's
guys.
Hawkeye. No, it's all right.
That's all good. We like it.
Yeah, we love having the logo on there. We appreciate those, our friends over at Pinseekers. But yeah, I mean that's all good to hear. I think I'm just so. It's great having you in for this podcast just because I am so in the dark about so much of this team, I think, overall. Because, like, obviously we saw a little bit out of Drake last year, but it's such a new team. Just don't know anything about these guys. Even walking into the interviews yesterday, I'm like, I don't even know what anybody, like, looks like on the roster. I've got to, like, check the names on the back of the jersey first before I go stepping in. So it's just such a new team. And so I know you've, like, done your research on these guys and have watched a lot of stuff. So I'm happy to have a lot of your input on this. But transitioning out of freshmen, let's just look at who the starting lineup might be for the Hawkeyes, because I think that's is this.
This is just what I predicted.
Okay.
And I wanted to see if you agreed with it, disagreed, see where we go. But I thought Bennett Sturts obviously is the one. Brendan Hassan, the shooting guard, Tavian Banks at 3, Alvaro Folgaris at 4, and Cam Manio starting in the post.
I think 1, 2, 4, and 5 are locks.
Sure. The 3 was the one I was unsure about.
3 is the question. And I think everybody, including people behind the scenes, are like, we're not sure yet. It could be Isaiah Howard. You saw a little bit of him with Drake at the end of last season. Effort guy, bought in completely. Don't forget, he scored 35 points a game as a senior in high school.
Really?
Jeez.
Jump shot, still a work in progress, believe it or not. But he originally committed to North Dakota State, decommits, ends up at Drake in like the last minute. They were able to get him. Turns out to be a great fit. He is going to be a fan favorite because of effort. You remember Drew Thelwell? It'll be similar to that, in my opinion, going into the season. Granted, it's a different skill set. He's a little bit bigger. He's more of a wing as opposed to a 1. But to me, it's between Banks and Howard. I don't think Thompson is plug and play quite yet, especially in the Big Ten. I do think he'll be somebody off the bench. But also, don't count out Cooper Koch.
Okay.
Like, Cooper has really, I mentioned Isaiah buying in. Cooper, despite being under Fran McCaffrey and being committed to Fran McCaffrey for multiple years before ending up at Iowa, the son of J.R. Koch, he has really, really bought in. He's starting to really, he likes structure in terms of how you play on the court. And this isn't a slam to Fran, but they just kind of let their guys play. They give him a box, to play within, but Cooper Koch has got some structure. He prefers some structure to his game, and additionally, like, still working on defense. I think that's still a work in progress, but if that continues to progress, he's not a great athlete. Like, he's just all 3-level scorer. He's got IQ, like being the son of a former D1 player, right? A former Hawkeye. Not the greatest athlete in the world. So if you want more athleticism, Banks is going to be your guy to go to. Howard, he's got some athleticism too, but not quite to the level of Banks. Howard's just going to be really, really an effort guy.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just going to say, that number 3 was the one I was kind of, obviously this wouldn't be for the first game because he might be suspended, but this is just in general, big picture. I was like, I'm pretty sure on the other 4 just because obviously Sturts and you bring in Hassan and Folgaris for a reason, and Cam seems to be the only one ready enough to play in the Big Ten down low like that, even though he's only 6'9". I think that's his height, but yeah, no, it's interesting that you said Cooper Koch and Isaiah Howard. Rotation-wise, Cale Combs in the mix too, and then those freshmen. Is that the rotation right there?
I was going to say that was the next kind of question on our itinerary was like, how deep does this rotation go? Like, is it a 8 deep?
I almost see the freshmen coming in maybe, obviously the bye games you can get everyone in, but in a tough game, maybe let them get a couple months of practice and experience first before getting in the Big Ten play.
I would say they're probably 9, maybe 10 deep, depending on Tate Sage. They're not going to go that deep once you're in the Big Ten. Like It's just not going to be like that. Or, like, once you reach postseason play, you're really starting to round out the rotation to 7 or 8 guys. 8 is usually max. But yeah, you mentioned Combs. Combs has impressed me, honestly, from what we've seen from him. He got downhill and attacked the rim yesterday, was doing that in the summer. He just seems so much more confident than he did at Drake. He really didn't play that much at Drake.
Right.
But he's an athlete. He had offers, D1 offers for football. Had
really?
A scholarship offer from Tim Lester at Western Michigan.
No kidding.
It or not.
Wow.
Play wide
Great.
receiver. Yep.
Great inside info.
So,
Mitch will love that info.
A big Western Michigan guy.
So I do think there were 2 things that Iowa wanted in the portal that they didn't get. And one of them is a secondary guard. So Cale Combs has to be that secondary guard. That sort of fill the role behind Bennett Sturtz when you take Bennett Sturtz off the floor, though he played almost all 40 minutes almost every game last season. Yes. I think he averaged like 39.
39.4, right? Was his average?
Ridiculous.
Jeez.
Yeah. With their pace of play, that was much more manageable because you're not flying up and down the court, right? But you need a secondary guard. You need a secondary playmaker in the backcourt that isn't, score first. And Cale Combs has to be that because they had Ashton Williamson committed from FIU, and
that's
he
right.
decommitted. And they were looking at the kid from High Point that ended up at Ole Miss. You know what I'm talking about?
I remember reading all the the rumors and stuff, the message boards. Probably your guys'
right. And it looked like he was going to be a Hawk for a while. They couldn't figure it out, but and then they probably
Keza Giffa?
Yes, Keza Giffa. The thing that everybody wanted out of the portal that was really expensive, that was something else I asked McCollum about, was a big man.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't find it in the portal. That's why Joey Mattione ended up falling over from Drake, is because he's 6'9", and yes, he provides some depth. Could be a piece down the road. He's not, I don't think, going to be part of the rotation this year. But with that said, I do think Combs is going to be part of the rotation, and then your bigs are Fulgaris, Urok, and Maniau, and to a degree Banks. Banks played in the front court quite a bit last year.
Okay, so I was going to say we've got 14 guys on the roster. You say maybe 10 deep, so the guys that maybe we won't see are probably Mattione, Jacob Cook, Peyton McCollum, and who am I forgetting here?
Sage is an if.
Okay,
if
sure.
To me. But yeah, he's a possibility. I have liked what I've seen, and if he doesn't play this year, I think he starts, not starts, but like he becomes part of the rotation next season.
Yeah.
Tighter rotation will be a little different for Iowa fans, just because you're used to seeing like, let's do a line change and get everyone, not everyone, but play like 12 deep.
Yeah. Is there, talking about Peyton McCollum, I was like, I know there might be some more Licklider comparisons there, having coach bring his son in, but
not the same.
This is
not the same.
This is not Lil Lick back on the roster
this
again.
Is not Lil Lick.
Well, that's at least somewhere that Hawkeye fans can rest easy. We did get a chance to chat with some of the players and Coach McCollum yesterday about who's really been impressive. I mean, I kind of love this question for both men's and women's players, just because they're seeing behind the scenes, who's really looking good. And so we asked some of the players yesterday who's really impressed them during this offseason.
Bennett Sturtz and Brendan Hausen amaze me every single day. Bennett comes off ball screens and it looks like he's walking on a basketball court, but he somehow gets downhill and scores on you. It makes zero sense. And the ball can get skipped across the court to Brendan in the corner, and he can just catch and shoot, and he shoots it 95% of the time, and it goes in.
I'd say just Trey, from being a young guy, he's really stood out. Cooper's been really good, but I mean I could say that for a lot. Like I could say that for everybody. I feel like everybody's had really good days and putting things together, and given the opportunity, they'll show it.
I would say at this point, Trevin. I mean, Trevin's been great. He's really gotten himself into shape. He can really pass it. The game slows down for him. He can shoot. Yesterday, I think it was 2 for 2 or 3 for 3 from 3. Just does a lot of good things. Great attitude. That's probably even one of the more overwhelming things that I didn't expect. Guys are winners. They're naturally going to win. But his attitude is through the roof, and so he's been great in the preseason.
All good insight, especially going into a season with so much unknown. I mean, that we really, when it comes to the women's team, we're like, all right, we kind of know what to expect out of 90% of that roster. With the men's team, boy, there's just like so much we aren't going to know, like what this actually looks like at Carver Hawkeye Arena until November 4th. I think that's the season.
November 4th.
Robert Morris.
Against Robert Morris.
That's right.
the Fulgaris Bowl.
Exactly.
Whoever wins gets to keep him.
Yeah, the weird scheduling scenario, which I know Bennett Sturz was talking about that on that podcast the other day too, about like when if a coach goes somewhere new, he should have to go back to the place that he just left and coach.
It'd be a weird rule, but it'd be entertaining.
Yeah,
That'd
it would be awesome.
so awesome.
Yeah.
I would sign up for that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Penn State when Matt Rule goes there, going over to Lincoln.
Or Iowa State.
Maybe.
Matt Campbell.
Yo. It could be. So tell me, Elliot, what are your expectations for this upcoming season? Like, do you envision this being a 20-win team?
Well, I'd have to count out all the games that they play, and I haven't gone that quite in depth yet. That's a good question. I do think you have to approach, because it's season one, you have to approach with, I would say, cautious optimism. I think you have to expect, just given McCollum's track record of winning, you also have to, I don't know if expect is the right word. I'm probably expecting this, but them to make the NCAA tournament. Yeah. I don't know that you're going to pick them to finish top 3 in the Big Ten, right? Like that's unrealistic. Like with Purdue and some of the other monster programs in the Big Ten. Illinois is going to be
Michigan, UCLA.
Michigan's going to be great. Yeah.
Yep. So never count out Michigan State with Izzo. So I think expectations should be, if you're not winning the majority of winning the majority of the games. Making, I don't know if a run in, I keep qualifying with everything. I don't know.
It's qualifying season though, like
right. I mean, we haven't seen them play.
Yeah.
And it being a new staff and new players, all that. NCAA tournament, I think, should be the expectation. Top half of the Big Ten, and win a game or two in the Big Ten tournament. Okay. Probably 2 or 3 in the Big Ten tournament. And I put maybe not all of it, but a lot of it on McCollum's reputation. Again, talking to a few people behind the scenes yesterday, that energy that was at practice where they're all hyping each other up before practice even starts, that stood out to me. What I was told is that McCollum, like, that's his standard. And if the guys aren't bringing that hype up energy, that energy to get their teammates going every day, there's a consequence, whether that's like running or whatever. The other thing was McCollum is I heard this quote from somebody, is that he's a killer. Like when I talk about Bennett Sturz on the court, I call him a killer because of what he did to UNI, for example, last year. But McCollum is so dialed in all the time. The other, to put that into perspective, somebody said to me, he is the most competitive person I have ever met.
Really?
And this person has been in sports for a while.
Wow.
That's encouraging.
To have,
if you're a fan.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like Fran McCaffrey wasn't competitive, but we just, I mean, especially on the sidelines during games, he's definitely competitive.
Yeah.
Ask any official in the Big Ten. But it's another level of intensity, of measured intensity, of leadership that rubs off on his players that I just don't know that Iowa's had in a while. It's hard for me to bet against something like that.
Yeah, a guy who's won always, like a guy who's been a winner everywhere, every time. Like, why would you not anticipate that this season at Iowa when he has maybe, you don't want to say more talent at disposal because he has basically the same guys, that he had at Drake and, maybe similar level of talent. But going forward, at least, he is going to have a new level of talent at his disposal. I was listening to another podcast, too. I think, again, been trying to brush up on my basketball podcast with, like, AP voting stuff. But I think this was either on Field of 68, maybe on one of those, where they were, like, projecting 11 Big Ten teams to get into the NCAA tournament. And Iowa was not one of those 11 that they projected, which I was like, I mean, again, there is a lot of unknowns out there about this team, but that seems like that would be a surprising turn of events if 11 get in and Iowa would not be one of them.
I'm just not betting against Ben McCollum.
Right.
I'm just not.
Right. Mike, do you see 20 wins in the future for this team?
I did look up. There's 30 games in the season, so just Ken Palm has Iowa. He just goes up, and if you're ranked higher, you get a loss, or if some of your opponent's ranked higher, you get a loss or whatever. Predicting 17-13 on the season, based on their ranking right now, which can change. It's still the preseason. We don't know a lot of stuff. I agree with Elliot that, I don't know if 20 wins. I mean, you might have to win 20 wins. NCAA tournament's the bar. That's your goal. As much as McCollum preaches and his players preach, like they want to win a championship, I just don't think it's realistic with the roster they have.
Not year one.
Exactly.
No. Yeah.
His streak of how many years in a row has he won a conference championship? Like 13 or whatever.
A lot.
So it might
be in jeopardy.
Probably will end today or this year. But I think that top half of the Big Ten is right too.
Oh yeah.
I could see him ending like, if they have a really good year and team roster is better than we think, maybe 4th or 5th, and then in a nightmare scenario, 11th or 12th or 13th.
Yeah.
So then you're sitting at maybe not making the tournament, but
I'll add to not betting against Ben McCollum. I'm not going to bet against Bennett Sturts either.
Sure.
And I say that because of them winning the MVC title last year, and Ben McCollum was like, yeah.
Yawn.
It's hard for me to do, and like, I could see them getting hot in the last third of the schedule and then winning the Big Ten tournament. Like that.
Wow.
To reiterate,
Clip this. Save that one.
It's knowing what I know about this team, knowing what I know about how things have led up to the season, knowing what I know about McCollum. It's really hard for me to look at this season and think anything less. Than that being a possibility.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
I could definitely see them reaching 20 wins the Big Ten tournament. Maybe just going in needing at 18 or 19 wins and then getting over that plateau is it in Indianapolis against here?
Chicago.
Okay. Yeah. But the thing with Ben McCollum, I think, is like the reason I'm optimistic about 20 wins is because I think that this is a team that can win some games that they're not supposed to win. Maybe going in against a top 5, top 10 team and winning some games. And I don't see them losing many games that they're supposed to lose or they're not supposed to win. If you get what I'm tracking with here, they're not going to lose against a team that they should. Yeah, exactly. Like against a lesser opponent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's not something I see envisioning year one with Ben McCollum or happening very often with Ben McCollum.
And it stems from what you were saying about that defensive intensity in general. Like, not to say that France teams didn't try hard, but I feel like just listening from their workouts, their practices have been more intense. When you hear Cooper Koch talk about, in the summer he hadn't had a workout that hard, it just seems like he's taking it to a different level. And in those crunch moments when Iowa could have won 20 games last year, but they lost a lot down the stretch, right?
Yeah.
They lost the games down the stretch.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
But they lost a lot.
Yeah.
That would have been a funny way to say it. But I think with those better conditioned teams, those more intense teams, they will win games in the second half.
Those are things that travel.
Yeah, exactly.
That. Also, fan turnout, it has to be, it's going to be so much better,
It really
especially once things get going and they keep winning.
Mm-hmm.
And people, I think, with the women, you can't say this, but with the men, I think you can almost forget what it was like to be in a full Carver Hawkeye arena for the men.
Yeah.
Because the year that would have happened, it was COVID for the last
true.
time with Fran McCaffrey. So it's got to be, it'll be refreshing for us. That's for sure. There'd be nights in the middle of December where you show up and they're playing, I only say this because I just saw it on their schedule, Chicago State, and there's 12 people in the stands.
But they do have the student section up against the ends with about 30 risers behind the.
I'll say this: when I was a freshman and sophomore at Iowa, Todd Licklider was the coach, and the student section was worse than it was.
Really?
Yeah, I seemed like there were 15 people.
Those were very bad years.
And I went to a lot of games, and you could show up, 15 minutes for the game and get a top 3 row,
Yeah, and I will say this about this team and why I think the fan turn. There's a lot of reasons the fans are going to turn out this year, but one of them is, and this is kind of my takeaway from yesterday, is that I just like a lot of the guys on the team. They seem like they're just very likable, affable, easygoing, easy to talk to guys, and I don't remember feeling that exact same way with the last couple of years of the Hawkeye men's basketball team. I like, obviously they're nice guys. I like Patrick McCaffrey a lot. He's a really nice kid. But I just didn't have that sense of energy like these guys are really having fun out here. Or I like getting to know these guys better. maybe that again is like a super personal preference type of thing, but it's like I just like talking to these guys and they seem really easygoing, laid back, like super chill dudes.
I think that might be an extension of the energy you get from Coach too.
Exactly.
And like Fran, outside of the context of like a presser, pretty nice guy. In a presser, he was not really having it.
No.
And you could feel that on the court. And I really like the Sanford brothers. Both really good dudes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So, but I see what you're saying. There's just like a lightness. Like it's like that teacher that you had in high school that you really had fun in their class, but you respected them. You know what I mean? And you got a good grade.
Yeah.
Because you respected them and and they made you feel like they cared. You know.
The fun teachers are not always the good teachers, and the good teachers are not always very fun, but every now and then you have that Venn diagram overlap with fun and good teacher. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Miss Whitehead, great Spanish teacher over at BCLUW High School, yes. Give us, as we're kind of transitioning out of the show, again, you're a recruiting guy. I'm not following the recruiting scene nearly as much, especially when it's like out-of-state stuff, but what can Hawkeye fans look forward to, next year when it's year 2 for Ben McCollum?
So right now they've only got one commit in the 2026 class, 4-star Ethan Harris. He is that Trey Thompson archetype where he's that 6'7" through 6'9" guy who can shoot from outside and can do a lot of different things, super skilled. They love him. This staff loves him. This is the archetype. This is the type of player that they're going to fill their roster with. Sean Bach did more of that coverage of his recruitment, so I'm not super plugged in. But one thing I will say that we have to mention about Ethan Harris, he's from Washington. Like, when was the last time Iowa got a recruit from the Pacific Northwest in basketball?
I could name some women's players, but yeah, men's players, I have no idea.
He chose Iowa over Gonzaga.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so that was wild.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the offer list.
And Washington, who just, from what I know, they throw cash around like it's nothing up there. Okay. So he's choosing Iowa over Gonzaga, who's effectively a blue blood in college basketball with Mark Few, and then over a ton of cash. And you could say the same thing for Trey Thompson, who chose Iowa over Purdue and Kansas and UConn and his home school of Tennessee. Like this staff knows who they are, knows what they're good at, and is really freaking good at presenting it to prospects that they think that they're like, look, this is what you can be. This is how you fit into this system. And they sold it to Trey Thompson. They sold it to Ethan Harris. Now, 26, there's not a ton left on the table in the 2026 class. I would imagine they're either going to go international or they're going to go portal going into next year.
For a point guard? You think?
Yeah.
Okay, because Bennett's gone, obviously.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, looking at the roster, there's only 3 people listed as seniors. That's Sturtz, Tavion Banks is listed as senior, and is Brendan Haasen. So, like, looking at it right now, I mean, are you only losing those 3 guys, hypothetically, which you'd have to imagine there's going to be some portal losses, but still, right now, is it only those 3?
Yes. Banks is a question mark because of the JUCO ruling, so he could stick around a little bit longer. And then Fulgaris, there's been like talk of him going pro internationally, but that'll also depend on how the season goes.
Sure.
They really have a few guys in the 27 class that they like. They're going out to watch 3 guys in the 27 class in the Midwest this week. You can check that out on 24/7 Sports, that intel. But they've also got Cole Kelly visiting this weekend. He's a 2028, played up with the 17U squad from Breakaway, which is an Illinois 3SSB team, and held his own when he was, I think, 14 or 15.
Wow.
Playing against seniors and on the 3SSB circuit. And he's, would be seniors on the 3SSB circuit. And he's a all-around player, kind of that archetype that I mentioned of this 6'7", 6'8" forward. Just a guy who can do a lot of things, stays really composed. He's visiting this weekend. And then a few others down the road here as well that Sean has covered. So I think there might be an official visitor this weekend. I don't know. You got to look it up on 24/7.
Is this a team that, like, I mean, most of the recruiting that I'm even going to follow is going to be related to in-state guys. Is there anybody in-state that is going to be on the Hawkeye roster next season, at least in terms of freshmen, or is there not much out of this year's senior class?
The only 2 players that I think of off the top of my head, I might have to look, but the only 2 players from Iowa that stick out to me that, would have had a chance to be at Iowa that Iowa would have wanted would be Colin Rice and Jaden Kuhn. Colin Rice headed to Nebraska. Jaden Kuhn heading to Creighton.
That's right.
So that's I again, unless I'm forgetting somebody, those are the two that stick out to me. And then down the road, Josiah Harrington headed to Iowa State. He's gonna be really good. Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll say about this staff is yes, if there is a prospect in state, they will be all over them. Like Ben Wade is another one that's coming down the pipe from Iowa City, Regina. He's got offers from UNI and Drake already.
Wow. Okay.
Other high major programs got him on the radar. I saw him throw down a 360 dunk at the prep hoops circuit.
What is he this year?
He is a sophomore this year. He's already 6'9".
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow.
Regina's going to be really good for you prep hoops fans. Wow. But yeah, that's what I think of. So in state, if they're available, I was gonna find them, but don't limit this staff. Like when I saw Trey Thompson for the first time, it was on the 3SSB circuit in Omaha, and he's representing his team from Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And I'm so used to Iowa offering these players and thinking, he's not coming here. What did Iowa do? They got him to commit in 6 weeks after talking to him for the first time. Okay. So don't rule out anybody for this staff.
Yeah. I do want to talk about somebody on the staff, just like as a little bit of inside info for a guy that I like, because yesterday I was kind of looking at how many players, how many staff carries over from last year. Do you guys know the one person on the staff that carries over from Fran's time at Iowa?
Oh, Kyle
Denning.
Yes.
So Kyle Denning and I, we go way back. So back when I worked at Channel 15, cable access station in Cedar Falls, we only covered 2 teams, Cedar Falls High School and NU High School, which is no longer in existence. But Kyle Denning was a superstar quarterback, point guard for that NU High team. And so I covered him a lot back then. And so like when I came back and worked in Cedar Rapids, I was showing up to Hawkeye games, and I saw him. I saw his dad at the games. And so I just talked to him yesterday. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're still here. He's like, I'm still here, baby. Director of basketball operations. I was like, how did you manage to stick around? And he kind of told me that, like, once Fran was like, go, they kind of came to Kyle and said, like, okay, do you mind just, like, keeping everything in line, making sure people are still going to class, like, everything's still, like, hunky-dory around here? And so he was kind of the guy that was, like, left to, manage a lot of the guys that were still on campus here at Iowa. And so he did that, and then was just kind of, like, sitting there. And then when Ben got hired, he's kind of like, okay, I guess I'm still here. And then eventually they, asked him to remain on staff. And so he stayed here. And I kind of asked, like, do you want to go anywhere? Do you want to move up in staff? He's like, nope, not really. Like, he's very happy being in his role of director of operations. In the past, I called him the Fran Wrangler, because, like, anytime Fran got, like, fired up and was in an official's face, Kyle was the one out there.
It's a tough job.
Shepherding him back to the sideline. And so I'm like, he's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to have to worry about that quite as much with Ben this year. So anyway, just love having Kyle back on the staff, just the one carryover that we have.
By the way, Matt Gatens, that was a possibility for a little while of him sticking around. Now he's going to be on the court with Auburn. He got elevated to assistant coach.
Oh, really?
Assistant coach after Pearl decided to retire.
Really?
So,
Man, good for him.
Congrats to him. Good guy.
The final question I want to ask before we go out. So this last week it came out that the Celtics had a play around between the coaching staff and the media for practice. And so I was curious to pick your brain, Elliot. If you were to pick a starting 5 for media members to go up against the Hawkeye basketball staff, who are you going with? You might know the ball of the fellow media members better than I do.
I know that Sean Bach was an athlete back in the day.
Okay.
I know that. I'm not saying he's in my top 5. Sorry, Sean. I got to think about it for a second.
I was seeing him shooting yesterday. He can stroke it.
Were you a basketball player in high school for BCLUW? Are you in the BCLUW Hall of Fame?
I scored 1 varsity point in high school. I came in late against AGWSR with Adam Veet, who went on to play at UNI, and nailed the first free throw and airballed the second one, and that was my 1 varsity point.
Just had to hit the rim, and you.
Yeah, exactly. And I quit my senior year just because I was so better served being in the student section than being on the court. And so I had a lot more fun there.
I won't pick myself, though. I do think, having been a college track athlete, I have a bit of an advantage getting up and down the floor, especially with some of the older guys. Yep. Dave was apparently he was like going to be a walk-on on the basketball team at Nebraska when he was there.
Okay.
I've never seen him play basketball, though.
Okay.
So I guess I'll pick Dave by default. David Eicholt. Yeah, David Eicholt. Jeez, Tyler Tashman. I don't want to underrate
He
him.
probably got a jumper.
Yeah, he loves hoops. Like if he could pick between basketball and football, I think he'd pick basketball.
Okay.
So I might throw him in there. He's also I think the youngest of the, not counting the Daily Iowan guys.
Yeah.
I think he's the youngest. So I might put him at my 1. Dave maybe at like the 3 or the 4, depending on if he could light it up from 3. I'd have to see a workout or two. Again, I might have to go with Sean just because of default youth.
I could see it.
Jeez. I wonder if Lystico can hoop.
He seems like
frame.
He's like the most athletic media member, I think.
Really?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, maybe hypothetically. He ran a half marathon in like 140 or something. Like, he's an athlete.
Okay.
I
lift weights, so I'm kind of an athlete, I guess.
So there's not a lot of size in this lineup.
No. Lystico, I think, is he the tallest or is Dave?
Oh, geez. Oh, between those two, I'd say David probably is taller.
Dave's pretty tall. Jeez. So
I saw Kyle Huseman shooting yesterday. He looks like he can maybe.
Yeah, I think he
shoot.
played at Bettendorf a little bit.
Is that right?
Yeah. But he was more of a baseball guy, I think.
Yeah.
So I'd probably put Huseman in there again for youth. Lystico is really carrying the load in terms of experience. And
I mean,
leadership.
if you want to put me in the post, I can stay there. Mike and I have played some ball together, and I'm not going to score a lot, but I can pull down some rebounds, put some blocks down.
Corridor corporate games this past year we played, and our team did not do well.
Yeah, no,
we'll just say that. We did beat another team though. So
is there anybody that we're I'm sorry, Jack Leto. I'm not picking you. Put Chelsea Brown over Jack.
I'm trying to think of other TV stations. Shannon Earhart was an athlete, but I don't think she's a really good soccer player, but I don't think she ever played basketball. Over at K-Dub, I don't know if Woodley's tall.
Retirement tour Jeff Dubroff. I'll throw him in there.
He looks like
he's in Florida.
Yeah. But I can at least, if you want somebody to hold down the 5 and at least play a little defense, pull down some boards, that can be my role.
You're quick one guard for like 2 or 3 possessions, and I'm out of breath because I haven't run since college. So
yeah. Mike could take some shots out there. Mike's better than
my handles aren't great, and I can shoot if I'm open, but not contested. So I want to pass on me.
I think the final of that media versus Celtics staff was 57-4, something like that.
They would cook us. The Iowa staff would. I said on Twitter in response to Dave tweeted about it, and I said I would sign him for this so fast just to get cooked by Josh Sash. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that we're missing that we think we should factor in? Because
I feel like there's probably a TV personality that I'm forgetting about.
Sure, somebody out there is like,
maybe in the Quad Cities.
What about me?
I don't know. I'm trying to go through all of my TV colleagues, and I'm like, I don't know if there's anybody out there that's an all-star athlete.
So to revert, Tyler Tashman, David Eichel, Sean Bach, Lystico, and I think you're my 5.
Sebring. Oh, man. We are struggling. Me and I don't know who the 5 is for the staff. That's a pretty small staff, like, in terms of stature, right?
Yeah.
I don't know who their big man
compared to, like, the basketball team, maybe.
Yeah,
not compared to you guys.
Manyow doesn't get to come out there and help him out.
Barnwell's kind of tall.
Okay.
I guess I was talking to him yesterday, and he was up on the court, and I was on the ground.
Yeah.
So maybe he's, they're all, not all of them. I bet, we don't talk about a lot on the staff, Connor Wheeler. I bet he can hoop.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And we've seen the video of McCollum just destroying Cooper DeJean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Sean can take that assignment. I will not. I will not guard McCollum.
Oh man! All right. Well, something to consider for another day. Maybe we'll pick it up during women's basketball season. See which 5 women's beat reporters could ball with those guys. But we do thank Eliot Clough for coming on Eye on the Hawks. Your insight is awesome.
Yeah,
because,
good stuff.
I mean, especially for me, Mike, and Mitch, we have so many other duties. It's we're kind of covering things as we can, but this is your focus. So having your insight in here is awesome, both recruiting and with the team itself. So we're just only less than 3 weeks out from the opening basketball game, right? I think November 4th against Robert Morris. So that's I think less than 3 weeks away. So we thank you for joining us on Eye on the Hawks. Very first basketball podcast, and just to make a few other plugs, we've got a women's basketball podcast that Mike and I are going to be recording coming up here. You can visit us on social media. We've got YouTube with a lot of our full interviews from the last couple of days of media availability are on there, and all the podcast locations you can find us. Thank you to DePaco and Penn Seekers for setting us up in this studio that we've got for this season, and we're going to do a lot of good with a lot of fun guests that are going to be coming in this season. So thanks for this very first basketball edition. Thanks for joining us, and we're going to see you again next time.
At DePaco Credit Union, we value your health and happiness as much as your financial well-being. We encourage the volunteer spirit by providing DePaco employees with the tools and resources to help grow our communities and support the causes that matter to us. We believe that giving back not only strengthens the places we call home, but also enhances our overall well-being. Well-being is the key to a life worth loving. So when you think about yours, remember that DePaco can help you be well.